The early release of Madden 26 is just a few days away, so it's time to round up the 26 new things that were added to Madden 26. This is a roundup of pretty much everything we know about Madden 26. If you missed out on some of the news or you just haven't been keeping up that much, this is everything you need to know. And I'm gonna have some exclusive gameplay coming for you early, so make sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon on so you don't miss that when it drops. Number 1, updated player movement. One of my favorite changes to the game. They have finally made the movement faster again. They've removed the slow, sluggish gameplay, and they've made it a little bit closer to how the college football game is, but they did find the balance a little bit more between the fastness of college and still trying to keep it realistic. You'll find that the movement is much snappier, ball carrier moves are more rewarding, and the really fast players like Tyreek Hill and Lamar Jackson will finally feel really fast again. Number 2, QB signature DNA, another one of my favorite changes this year. Everything from their throwing styles to their signature releases, both in the pocket and on the run, their in-pocket behaviors, how they climb the pocket, how they escape the pocket, depending on the different quarterback, and even signature running styles for some of these guys as well. The QBs will look and play more realistic than they ever have in a Madden game. Number 3, 50 new player traits. Now this also applies to what I was just talking about with the QB signatures. These new player traits heavily impact how these QBs play. So Lamar Jackson will try to juke more defenders in the open field, whereas Josh Allen will try to run them over. And you'll see guys like Kyler Murray kind of have his scrambling tendencies, and you will see these QBs play a lot more like their real life selves, but these player traits also impact every position on the field. Now these are different than these superstar abilities. These don't enhance the actual gameplay itself, rather it drives the behavior of these players. So a QB that gets rattled easy, for example, you will see that trait play out in that he might hold the ball too long and take a sack, or he might force a bad pass, whereas QBs that maybe are more of risk takers, you'll see them take those risks in one-on-one coverage. You'll see things like ball carriers go for certain moves based on their player traits as well. And on the defensive side of the ball, for example, you'll see players go for big hits if they have that trait, or they'll try to punch the ball out if they're more known for stripping the ball away. Number 4, coach DNA. Now, just like the quarterbacks, the coaches got a big overhaul as well. So the coaches are going to call the games a lot more like they would in real life. And they've worked on this in the past, but it feels like this year they've taken it to another level. So you'll see coaches like Andy Reid call the game like he would in real life. Coaches like Dan Campbell are going to be more gutsy than other coaches and go for it more often. And especially in modes like franchise, you're going to need to game plan and strategize differently depending on your opponent. Number 5, data-driven coaching. Now this is kind of the second part of Coach DNA, but this includes a whole slew of things like adaptive counters. So now you'll see these AI teams adapt a little bit better to some of the things you do. I'm not going to say they're going to perfectly adapt to everything you're throwing at them, but for example, if you're running outside zone a lot, they're going to eventually adapt to that and try to shut that down. If you're running the same passing concept like verticals over and over, they should better adapt to run the defense to counter that. And if you're on the defensive side of the ball and you're trying to run the same stuff over and over, they're going to adapt to that as well. And along with this, they've also updated the coaching suggestions, which will now give you more real life suggestions that coach would actually call, and it'll actually give you the reasoning for why they are suggesting this play, which is pretty cool. Number 6, updated playbooks. They've been updating the playbooks a lot more these past couple of years, and they've taken it to yet another level this year. They've added more new plays and formations. They've added a bunch of exotic new defensive pressures, which are pretty cool. And they've even added a bunch of plays that have double motions and shifts. So we're seeing new stuff in Madden that we have never seen before. Number 7, stunts and twists. One of my favorite additions to the game. If you've played college football, you've seen it over there as well. You can now put different stunts and twists on pretty much any play, and you can do it from the play call menu or on the field itself. And these are actually insanely good at generating pressure. So now you don't have to always blitz if you want to get pressure. You can throw stunts out there and you have a decent chance of getting a guy free. Number 8, subs on the fly. Now when you're on the field, you can press up on the D-pad and you can sub out your players in real time. And then at the next play, those players will be subbed out until you change them back. So you don't have to wait to do it at the play call screen. You could do it on the fly now, which is pretty cool. And it also allows you to monitor the wear and tear of your players, as it'll show you on your sub chart who's suffering wear and tear. And that brings us to number 9, which is wear and tear, something that debuted in college football last year, and it has now come over to Madden. Now this is going to be really big for franchise and superstar mode. You have to monitor your own player's health or your entire team's health depending on the mode you're playing. the hits they take, the amount of times that you're using them in the game, that wears on their body, not only for the season, but for their career. And you need to monitor how you're practicing these players, how you're using them, how many hits you're taking, and your risk of injury goes up, and your ratings can decrease both in game and for the season depending on how much wear and tear your player is racking up. Number 10, new depth chart positions. Finally, we have the correct and updated terminology for the positions in Madden. So instead of defensive end, we now have edge. Instead of just linebacker, we have the Sam, Mike, and Will designations. And yes, we even have a long snapper position finally in the game. And a new gadget position on the depth chart where you could put players like Deebo Samuel or Taysom Hill and sub them into unique positions in different formations. Number 11, custom zones. You now have the ability to stem your zones as far back or as short as you want them. Basically, this is the opposite of offensive route stems that were introduced last year. And to throw an extra one in here, you can also now route commit in man defense, so you can completely sell out to stop an in or outbreaking route. Number 12, football weather. Another one of my favorite additions to the game. Weather has needed an overhaul for a while, and this year we're getting a new heavy snow and heavy rain option, and it is the best that weather has ever looked in a Madden game, and it also affects the gameplay and your player wear and tear, which makes it pretty cool. Number 13, updated coach creation. This was an area that was lacking big time in Madden, and they have finally given it a nice upgrade. You now have a bunch of different options to customize your coach exactly to your liking, to the different tops he can wear, to the bottoms, and even the shoes. You can make the coach look pretty much exactly how you want. Number 14, coach abilities. This is something that we've seen in the college game, and they've brought it over to Madden in a similar way. Now your coaches will be more lifelike than ever. These abilities have different tiers that you can upgrade throughout the season, and you can equip a certain amount of abilities for each game, which goes into the new overhauled game planning system that also now includes the ability to build custom play sheets for each game. So now when you're game planning, you have abilities, play sheets, all of which can be upgraded and will affect the game you're playing. But if you don't use certain abilities for so long, you can also lose them. And this also makes your coordinators matter more than ever, because in the past, they really hardly mattered, but now your coordinators have their own sets of abilities too, much like the college game if you're familiar with that. So you can build a staff that complements you, and now when going into games, you can game plan for each opponent by switching out different abilities and play sheets to truly try to get the best of your opponent. Number 15, coach approval rating. This is another big change for franchise mode, where now your coach will have an actual approval rating where he has to meet the needs of not only his players and the fan base, but the media, the owners, and more. And all of this factors into your approval rating. If your rating gets too low, you get fired. And for some cities and teams, it's going to be harder to keep that rating high because some franchises expect more than others do. Number 16, core franchise improvements. Now, these are just a bunch of little improvements that I have combined together into one because I didn't want to leave these out of the video, because I know for franchise players, a lot of those little things matter sometimes more than the big things. So what I mean by core franchise improvements here is that they improve the draft logic to more mimic real life and how teams are operating currently. There's new draft prospect generators that now include more hidden gems. They've done an update to the sim stats, and I do believe this is an area that is a lot better now than it has been in the past. Even if it's still maybe not perfect, I do think from what I've heard, this has gotten a lot better. They've updated the retirement logic, the progression and regression logic, the player tag logic, which was another area that needed some work as well. And I think all of these things all together will really improve the quality of life in franchise mode. Moving on to superstar mode stuff now. For number 17, career chapters. Now this I think is actually one of the better parts of Superstar this year, where they're giving you the ability to have different experiences instead of everybody playing through very similar experiences. So now you can have a backup experience, for example, where now you can be a backup and you can go through that challenge of trying to become a starter. So now you can have a Brock Purdy career arc, for example. There's also the ability to get benched if you actually play bad now, like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold or Geno Smith did early in their career, before then being able to build back up and become starters again. And along with these career chapters, they also added another one which gives you the ability to demand trades now. Once you earn enough influence with your agent, that is, which we'll get into as we move into the next bullet point. Number 18, the sphere of influence. Now, this is a feature for Superstar Mode, which basically drives your relationships that you have as a player. So you have a coach relationship, of course. You have relationships with teammates, the owner, your agent, and it could be other people you meet along the way, like friends or whatever the case. And this all drives kind of your story in Superstar Mode. So basically the idea here is the more influence you gain with different relationships, the different things you can get out of them. For example, when you gain enough influence with your coach, you get more control over the playbook or the ability to hot route if you're a quarterback. When you gain influence with your agent, you can demand different things from them, so on and so forth. Moving on to number 19, Game Day Beats. This is also a Superstar Mode feature. And what they said when they revealed this was that throughout its history, Superstar Mode never had a feature or system that dramatically impacted the in-game experience from week to week. While skills progression, narrative, training, and other supporting features have evolved, the core gameplay has remained largely similar. So the whole purpose of Game Day Beats is to make every week feel different. Every week will have a purpose. No longer will a game in Superstar Mode feel like just another date on the calendar. Each week will deliver a unique story, complete with dynamic gameplay and objectives from your coach. And it says every position will have a unique set of game day beats with tailored objectives and modifiers that map the role of the position. And as your chapters change and your superstar status evolves, you will see new game day beats that have never been seen before. Even subtle storylines such as statistics, win streaks, and rivalries can trigger in your game day beats. And it says that there are more than 500 different game day beats at launch of the game, and they can add more. So basically, to kind of sum it all up, they just want each week to feel different. They want you to have different experiences, different things to look forward to each week. So we'll see how this actually plays out in game, because this is an area that Superstar Mode has lacked in for a long time. Number 20, stadium graphics. Finally, the game will have real life stadium graphics direct from the real NFL team. So every team in the game will no longer have the same generic graphics to just say their name and show their logo. Now, I don't know if all of these are going to be in at launch. I know they were still waiting on some from NFL teams, but they said most of them should be in there, and the ones that aren't will be added shortly after. Number 21, stadium music. Another big overhaul that they finally did was add a bunch of real licensed music to the game, something we have seen in the last 2 releases of college football, and now we're seeing it more in Madden as well. So you'll hear songs like Sabotage from the Beastie Boys. You'll hear Just Wanna Rock from Lil Uzi Vert. You'll hear Fiend by Travis Scott, Mr. Brightside from The Killers. There's Metallica music, there's Foo Fighters, there's Green Day. There's a ton of these that you will hear during the game. Some of them for pre-game intros, some of them just in between plays after big plays in stadiums, and it's really cool. Number 22, halftime and wrap-up shows. Finally, we've got a real halftime and weekly wrap-up show added to the game. These are going to be pretty big for franchise mode, and they are hosted by Scott Hansen. The halftime show will show replays from around the league, as will the weekly wrap-up show. This is something we've been asking for so long, and it's finally here. Number 23, different broadcast packages. This is another thing we've been waiting a long time for. Now each primetime game has its own distinct feel. Different music, different graphics, different scoreboards, and different announce crews assigned to each game. And this is something that makes each week feel unique, something they've talked about in Superstar Mode. They also talked about that in franchise. They want each week to feel unique. They want big games to feel special, and now they finally do. Number 24, updated team runouts. This is another area of presentation that they heavily updated this year. So now every team has a unique runout that features certain traditions that they do in real life. So at the Patriots game, they ring the bell. At the Falcons game, the Falcon mascot flies down from the rafters. At Saints games, a player does the Who Dat chant before the game. And every team has something unique about them, and it makes each game feel hype and feel special. And for certain teams, they even have a more elevated nighttime entrance that honestly goes pretty hard, and I can't wait for you guys to see some of them. Number 25, mascots. This is another thing that is finally returning to the Madden series. Most of the mascots should be in the game at launch. So now you'll see them in the pregame. You'll see them at the back of the end zone during gameplay. You'll see them in between shots of them celebrating and all that good stuff. Again, just making the game day experience feel more real. Number 26, new celebrations. They brought over the celebration system from college football, which now gives you the opportunity to do a ton of different celebrations by using both of the analog sticks and your different triggers on the controller. There's a bunch of them for touchdowns, first downs, interceptions, and you can even run around after you score and go to certain hotspots like the goal post, for example, or the end zone wall and do celebrations there. Now, while they did add a ton of great stuff to Madden this year, there are still 5 big things that still won't be in the game that are important to a lot of people. And if you want to know what that is, make sure to check out this video right here on the screen.